Welcome to the Torah podcast for Parshas Re'eh. Join us as we explore the weekly Parsha, uncovering valuable insights and striving to become the best versions of ourselves through Musar teachings. Parshas Re'eh spends real estate on a law that on the surface looks like simple bookkeeping. The pasuk says, "Aser ta'aseres kol tevuas zarecha va'achalta lifnei Hashem Elokecha b'makom asher yivchar l'shakein shmo sham l'man tilmad liyira es Hashem Elokecha kol hayomim." You shall set aside a tithe of all the produce that your field brings forth year by year, and you shall eat it before Hashem your God in the place Hashem will choose to make the divine name dwell there, so that you may learn to revere Hashem your God all the days. That's Devarim Perek Yud Daled Pasuk Chaf Beis and Chaf Gimel. During 4 years out of every 7-year cycle, a portion of the harvest called Meiser Sheni, the second tithe, could not simply be eaten at home. It had to be carried to Yerushalayim and eaten there. If the distance made that impractical, the produce could be exchanged for money and the money spent in Yerushalayim instead on whatever the owner wished. Compare this to the rest of Re'eh's agricultural laws, and the second tithe, Meiser Sheni, looks curious. Leket Shircha and Peah, leave parts of every field for the poor. Meiser Ani, the tithe of the 3rd and 6th years, goes directly to the poor as well, as the Torah specifies a few psukim later. Truma and Meiser Rishon support the Kohanim and the Leviim, who have no land of their own and are devoted instead to divine service and teaching. Every other tithe in the system has an obvious recipient and an obvious purpose. Meiser Sheni seems to have neither. It isn't given away, it isn't eaten by the very person who grew it. It's eaten by the very person who grew it. What then was Hashem accomplishing by sending a farmer's own produce on a long walk to Yerushalayim, just so it could be eaten there instead of at home? As we explored in this year's episode on Bahar B'chukosai, the Sefer HaChinuch offers one answer to a very similar puzzle. A family that has to travel to Yerushalayim to consume its Meiser will often choose to stay and learn there, or send a child to learn there in their place, supported by that very produce. Multiply that across the country year after year, and nearly every household ends up with someone bringing Torah home from Yerushalayim. The mechanism is almost mechanical. People gravitate toward wherever their money already is. That's a real answer and a beautiful one. The Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim points to something else happening at the very same time, something almost incidental to the studying. The Rambam explains that because Meiser Sheni could not be sold and could not be carried over to the next year, the farmer had no real choice but to use it for eating and drinking on the spot in Yerushalayim. Since no one can consume an entire year's tithe alone, much of it inevitably got shared with neighbors, with strangers, with whoever happened to be there. The Rambam calls this nothing less than a mechanism for building the bond of love and brotherhood among the children of men. The law wasn't designed to teach farmers a lesson about how generous they ought to be. It was designed to make them generous structurally, whether they felt like it that year or not. The chesed wasn't the point of the trip. It was the byproduct of having nowhere else to put a year's worth of food. The Rambam says something nearly identical about the 3 pilgrimage festivals themselves, that the gathering itself renews the attachment to religion and leads to friendly and social intercourse among the people. Whether through Meiser Sheni or through Yom Tov, the architecture of the mitzvah forced a connection into being. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, drew out why this detail matters far more beyond ancient Yerushalayim. Centuries later, Alexis de Tocqueville, studying the young United States, noticed something he had to coin a new word to describe: individualism, the quiet pull toward one's own family and friends that leaves the wider community to fend for itself. Tocqueville worried that left unchecked, this instinct would hollow out the public square entirely. Modern researchers have actually measured this instinct in action. In what economists call a public goods game, a group of players each received money and chose how much to contribute to a shared pot, which is then multiplied and divided evenly among everyone. Contribute generously and the whole group profits. Hold back while everyone else gives, and the holdout profits even more at everyone else's expense. When this game was tested across cities worldwide, researchers found that in places where public spiritedness ran low, free riding ran high. Even more troubling, when honest players tried to penalize the free riders often struck back at their punishers rather than reforming. Trust collapsed further, and the whole group lost out. Meiser Sheni is the Torah's answer to that exact failure, written centuries before anyone had a name for the disease or ran an experiment to prove it. By making it structurally impossible to simply hoard a year's own harvest, the Torah didn't leave generosity to chance, to mood, or to how spiritually accomplished a person happened to feel that particular year. It built the sharing directly into the design of the mitzvah. Most of us don't have a law forcing our hand the way Meiser Sheni forced the farmers. We are free every single day to keep our time, our resources, and our attention entirely to ourselves. And most days, no one would even notice if we did. This week, let's all look for one place where we have quietly settled into being a free rider, drawing benefit from a shared community, a shul, a family, a friendship, a workplace, without contributing or share back into it. Then let's borrow the second tithe's own strategy. Let's build in some structure of our own, a standing commitment, a recurring act of chesed, a contribution we schedule rather than leave to whenever we happen to feel generous. Let's not wait to feel inspired toward connection. Let's make the connection automatic, the way Hashem made it automatic for a farmer holding a tenth of the harvest with nowhere else to take it but Yerushalayim. The Parsha starts off, Re'eh anochi nosein lifneichem hayom. Moshe asks us to see. The Meiser Sheni shows us something easy to miss. Some of the deepest bonds between people aren't built through grand declarations of love, but through small structural choices that leave us no exit but each other. May we all merit to build that same kind of structure into our own lives and find the connection we engineer in our own actions become, in time, the connection we actually feel in our hearts. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Musar Torah podcast. May we all merit to turn structure into a sincere love for one another. Have a good Shabbos.